In the world of American fashion, there are names that just stand out as icons, like Tommy Hilfiger. The upstart designer took the world by storm more than 30 years ago, and he has a new memoir out. Actually, it comes out today. It's called American Dreamer: My Life in Fashion and Business. Hilfiger reveals how, with no formal training, he helped grow a brand that's loved by celebrities. It has about $6.5 billion in global sales. Wow. We visited Hilfiger at his Connecticut home. Tommy, you actually dreamed of living in a house like this.
Yes.
When you were little.
Yeah, I did. And you know what is great about my life is I've been able to realize many of my dreams.
Tommy Hilfiger's dreams began in the small New York town of Elmira, where he grew up the second of 9 children in a working-class family.
I had a dream to build a brand, build my own brand.
What does building a brand even mean, Tommy?
It meant to build a product and an image that would be lasting. It would mean that there were products behind the name that were credible, authentic, accessible, affordable, and cool.
And wholesome, Americana, red, white, and blue. How did you come up with red, white, and blue?
Well, I knew I needed a logo, so I looked at Nike's swoosh, and when Phil Knight took the name Nike off the swoosh, I thought, this is what I want to do someday. I want my flag to be so known that eventually I could take my name off it and people would recognize it.
Long before Tommy Hilfiger was a brand, he was a store owner. He began People's Place in high school, bringing hippie fashions to upstate New York, while he learned very important lessons in commerce.
I had an early bankruptcy with the business before I was 25. And that gave me my MBA. It taught me how to focus on the business part of the business.
But when you first started, you weren't necessarily embraced and praised in the fashion industry.
Well, we ran an ad campaign devised by a genius by the name of George Lois.
George Lois, yeah.
And it compared me to the other great American designers, and I was completely unknown. So when that ad ran, people looked at me and said, "Who does he think he is?"
Because you're comparing yourself in this ad to Ralph Lauren,
Yeah.
Calvin Klein.
But George Lois had the idea that he would make the name famous overnight, and then the audience would come to look, to see, to shop, and buy. Mm-hmm. And it worked.
Okay, so when did you have the moment when you realized, okay, I am good at what I do?
Very recently.
It took me
a long time, because I like to look at myself or as our business as being the underdog, because
Still?
It makes us work harder, be more motivated, be more aware of the competition around and what's going on, and it drives us.
There was that iconic shot of Snoop Dogg on Saturday Night Live wearing Tommy Hilfiger clothes.
Yeah.
And what did that do for your brand?
It lit the whole street fashion on fire.
Like immediately?
Immediately. Mm-hmm. I mean, Snoop was performing on SNL, and Monday morning in Bloomingdale's they were selling out.
Just like that, Hilfiger was the hottest thing in hip-hop, until rumors circulated claiming that he said he did not like minorities buying his clothes.
It turned out to be a very vicious rumor, Tommy, and you write in the book that it hurt your heart and it hurt your integrity.
It really did. Because at the end of the day, your integrity is all you have. And I didn't want the public to think that I was that type of person. Oprah was kind enough to call me up and say, "You've got to come on the show. Let's squash the rumor. Let's say to the world that that rumor is a BFL."
She called it a big fat lie. In the book you say you believe you know who was behind it. But you don't share who that is.
I believe it's someone who was jealous of our success.
Have you ever confronted the person who you think is behind it?
No. I want to move on, mm-hmm. and I want to focus on, doing the best I can do with my philanthropy, mm-hmm. with our brand, mm-hmm. with, being a great family man.
Hilfiger has 7 children and says being dad is job number 1. It's a role especially important to him after a difficult relationship with his own father.
You talk about, because of the relationship with your dad at the time was very tough, it really influenced the type of father that you are today.
I have to look back and thank my dad for raising the bar.
Why? Tell me about that. It clearly means something to you.
He wanted me to be the best. And at the time, I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No, that's all right.
I thought he was being too tough on me. But maybe the reason I'm successful today is because I wanted to prove to him that I could be all that he wanted me to be.
Yeah. In fact, Tommy, you say that when you filed for bankruptcy, one of the hardest things was telling your dad that it didn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a tough day.
That bothered you.
But as a positive thinker,
Yeah.
I pulled up my bootstraps and I said, I'm going to start over and I'm going to realize my dream, which is happening today.
I was very touched with Tommy talking about his dad. The relationships between fathers and sons are so complicated, Charlie. They
The
were
story's written 1,000 times.
Yes,
Well-
the story is so rich. But you know what he said, Nora? He said that his dad did get to see his success, that he was scared of his dad every day of his life, but in the end, his dad was wearing his clothes.
Yeah.
So I think that there's something very sweet about that.
Yeah, he was clearly very emotional
No, he
about
was.
that.
He was. You know,
To this day.
To this day, I know. Isn't it interesting how it's the emotions that conjure that
Is
out?
it the same for daughters and mothers?
I think it can be. I think it
Yes,
can be,
but there's also, I mean, look at this
can be.
presidential race too. I mean, look at the relationship between Hillary Clinton and her father.
But
You know,
every
the
son
lack of
But her mother was the inspiration for her.
Absolutely, absolutely. And look at the relationship between President Obama, or the lack of a relationship
mother.
between President Obama and his father.
Every
Yeah.
son wants his father to be proud of him. I don't care who he is. Everybody wants it. You can hear my extended version of my conversation with Tommy Hilfiger on our CBS This Morning podcast. See, another reason to get it. Find it on iTunes. We'll be right back.